Hello and welcome to a very special interview on NewsX with me, Devika Chopra. Indians use technologies like Aadhaar and UPI on a daily basis. Most of us hardly even carry our wallets anymore, and in case we forget our wallets at home, nobody is really panicking anymore because everything we need today to move around in an everyday economy, we have it all in our phones. In August this year, UPI crossed 10 billion transactions for the first time, and for perspective, that's roughly 2 billion more than the current global population. In transactional terms, it was over rupees 15,000 crores. However, because these technologies are so common in our daily lives, we don't even think about the people behind them, their transformative impact, and how they're being leveraged for building a more inclusive society. And that's just not in India, but the idea has in fact traveled to different parts of the world. The rollout of this digital public infrastructure in India has been a game changer, and the world is now keen to understand how India achieved this feat. Well, academics at the University of Cambridge have in fact developed a quote-unquote playbook on how India's digital public infra can serve as a model for other nations around the world. Today, we're being joined by Carlos Montes of the Innovation Hub for Prosperity at the Judge Business School at Cambridge. Carlos is one of the authors of the playbook titled Why India's Digital Infrastructure is a Blueprint for Prosperity. Carlos, thank you so much for speaking with NewsX.
Thank you so much, Devika, for having me.
And I'm going to get right into it. My first question, if you can take us and our viewers through this playbook that you have developed, what sparked this idea to focus on the digital public infrastructure in India?
As you have said, Devika, the digital public infrastructure has been transformational in India. But, that story had not traveled so much around the world. And in fact, the spark was a bit of good luck. I was working on identifying big ideas that could help progressive leaders around the world to support prosperity. I had worked on a playbook about democracy and decentralized government, and I was looking for another kind of big topic. And it just happened that Professor Jaideep Prabhu, who's also in the Cambridge Judge Business School, he's the vice dean, he told me without hesitation that the India stack had to be the next playbook. I kind of it was a bit of a mystery because India stack did not seem very friendly in terms of the terms, but I trusted him, and because of that, I follow his advice. And that was lucky because, a few months later, with much research and discussions with some of the best economists in the UK, I kind of discover, an obvious discovery, but the India's DPI and Nandan Nilekani teams in Bengaluru were the best example in the world of a digital approach that ensures that technology benefits all citizens, because everyone talks about technology, but it's not so obvious what's the technology that actually helps everyone, all citizens. And that was what was impressive about the work that India had done. And of course, this is something that Bill Gates, Pichai from Google, the International Monetary Fund, lots of people have discovered that, but that was the lack of being introduced to the world of India's DPIs.
In fact, this year, the G20, a lot of the global leaders actually got to try UPI. We had literally set up stalls for them, and I'll come back to that in just a moment, Carlos. But at the same time, as we've said, it's been quite a game changer in India. So what unique qualities do you feel have attracted other countries to India's DPI model?
Well, I think the playbook analyzes the big changes, as you say, the transformational changes that the DPI has brought to India. It empowers citizens. There is this Peruvian economist, Hernando de Soto, that said how important it was for people to have the possibility of participating in markets. And this is what this technology makes possible. Obviously, it speeds government processes, gives them transparency. It has helped to reduce the informal sector. It revolutionizes the education with your active books, the health sector. So all these things are, in a way, to me, they look like you guys have solved all the key digital technologies that are needed by open governments, or technology that helps to bring open governments and open societies, for prosperity. So, you have made that available to the world. And, in fact, in the playbook, we call it that this is perhaps India's greatest contribution to the world. But of course, the fact that there is a technical solution, that you guys have produced a technical solution, doesn't mean that it's going to be adopted by other governments and other countries, right? So in India, and this is what I learned from the visit that I had to Bengaluru, it requires a strong political commitment to technologies that benefit all citizens. It also requires a level of IT sophistication that is not very available in many places. And of course, it requires entrepreneurs that are willing and ready to innovate. Developing countries, by and large, do not have this mix at the ready. And therefore, it's going to be a challenge to make that happen. But, perhaps higher income countries are the ones that will first begin to benefit from DPIs.
At the same time, Carlos, then, if you can shed some light on how India can perhaps act as a global leader then to ensure that these digital technologies are leveraged for the benefit of all as a tool of mass transformation.
Yeah, I think that the most important steps have been taken already by India. Of course, there has been the development, the implementation, all the impacts that you have received, and the promotion of DPIs, as you mentioned, in the G20s, and broadly, there is an understanding, at least in theory, that the DPIs are crucial for prosperity. And you have also, importantly, very generously made all this technology available to the world. So it is important that India continues to use this DPI approach, because it's not a tool, it's not Aadhaar, it's not UPI, but it's an approach that makes digital technologies available, ensures that digital technologies are available to everyone. And so it's important that continues to be used, for example, in artificial intelligence. That is a key area, of development, so that the world sees that. But in my view, it's also important that this technology is not seen as something that the Indian state is kind of the owner. I think that it's important that it's being seen as belonging also to the community of technologists and the community of entrepreneurs. And then, it opens the opportunity to, for example, have collaborations with IT departments in other parts of the world, with tech communities, where Indian universities could provide online guidance to these universities, so that the DPI backend protocols are accessible to them. And similarly, for Indian businesses to sort of be promoters of DPI, to be very specific, all the opportunities, the fact that DPIs are actually, good business, it also promotes innovation, and the way that the Indian economy has grown because of DPI is something that other countries need to learn. To be very specific, Brazil, a big country in South America, and I'm from Peru, has adopted a PIX, which is a kind of UPI payment system. It has had also incredible results, maybe even stronger than in India. And so that opens the opportunity for Indian financial tech businesses to sort of move to India to show the path. Or other countries that we, a region in Peru that we're trying to work with, that is trying to bring some of these digital e-commerce networks, open networks, it will benefit from having Indian and Brazilian entrepreneurs to work with them.
Absolutely. Carlos, at the same time, you mentioned that you visited India and you've met with tech leaders who've been leading this mission in India. What exactly were your learnings from this visit?
Yes, again, just by incredible good luck, our playbook was actually read, so I don't know how these tech entrepreneurs have time to still read, academic, playbooks and things, but they read and also gave us feedback to understand that DPIs are not just these tools, the Aadhaar, UPI, your digital wallets, all the things that you have, but it's more importantly, as I said before, an approach that ensures that technology solves societal problems at scale and brings benefit. So, Nandan Nilekani kindly invited us to your own Silicon Valley, in Bengaluru, and that helped us understand how a relatively low-income country has emerged as the global leader in leveraging digital technology to enhance citizens' lives. The conversations with the think tanks there in Bengaluru were, I have never been so impressed by the quality of the people there. Institutes like the IIIT, FIDE, XTEP, e-Government Foundation, but that helped us understood, and that was kind of like the secret, I think, of all this, that the Indian success was based on this amazing IT capacity, and also these techies, a kind of passion for solving societal problems. But also this was married very luckily with a strong high-level political commitment. So this very techy DP approach of open standard, interoperability, modularity, in effect brings the best of government. So the passion for getting in social impact at population level so that nobody is left behind, but also combining with free markets that allow these technologies to grow and innovate and scale. So because of the results that you mentioned, the fact that all Indians are behind this, that's what has made it possible to create, to also give political sustainability to these changes. But, the challenge is how you manage to get this approach working in other countries.
Absolutely. And like you said, it's perhaps a good mix that you noticed in India, where all three factors, the government, the tech experts, and then, of course, at the end of the day, the people, all willing to play their part in making this digital infrastructure boom happen in India. But Carlos, you were also quite interestingly mentioning something about Brazil. Could you give us maybe some more examples of what is the work that is being done in other parts of the world, and how exactly are you involved then with these projects?
Yes. So as I mentioned, these technologies, in my view, have solved most of the digital problems that governments would need. And I'm not aware of, I haven't researched fully what's happening in other countries. But as you mentioned, in our innovation hub, we're started to work with some of these projects. And we're very excited because, particularly we're working, through a bottom-up approach. And so, for example, in the region of Lambayeque, in Chiclayo, in Peru, a region that is very affected by the national disasters, climate change and, El Nino currents, we have put together an ecosystem that includes the regional governor, the mayor of the city, the Chamber of Commerce, key entrepreneurs, 2 universities, and with the very ambitious aim of transforming this region, which is the 3rd, 4th biggest region in the country, in the digital hub for the country. FIDE, which is one of these organizations in Bengaluru, supported by Nandan Nilekani, is helping us with the ambition of following the footsteps of Belém, an Amazonian city in Brazil, that is just starting to develop DPIs, particularly with open networks, with what's called a backend open networks that try to reproduce your ONDC kind of sort of model. and trying to do that in Lambayeque. So following those, those steps. And also the local university is keen to become a hub for DPIs and this way of having open decentralized networks beckon. And so that plus at the same time we have channels at national level that would allow us to share with the regions that knowledge. But it also applies to other areas where, for example, in Zanzibar, where the Institute of Indian Technology of Madras has opened the first outpost or the first institute outside India in Zanzibar. We're trying there with a new city that is being created with the support of the charter cities. We're trying to introduce some of these DPIs that help to run a city, with the support of e-governments. So, there is a lot of opportunities. It's not easy because it requires, the vision of adopting a new technology and the political leadership to try to choose that.
Absolutely. Carlos, I wish we had more time, and perhaps we can, of course, bring you back in the future as well to give us more details and perspective on what's happening across the world. But I'm going to have to leave you with this last question. What will be your message to leading entrepreneurs, people in the tech sector and governments? How can all the stakeholders come together, and what role can India further play here?
Thank you. Yes, as I have said, India has done something transformational, and to move from there to actually move it to the rest of the world, it's challenging, but it will be an amazing sort of prize. And so, what I think that the key message for as you mentioned, entrepreneurs, technologies, and progressive political leaders is to simply. I guess generally we all want to reinvent the wheel. There is a solution, but we all want to sort of, get to try again to find our own solution. But I think the message will be, to just adopt, and support this solution, and therefore get, falling fully behind, and in both promoting, investing, in adopting this technology, as I gave examples of the need that is helped, the need that is the urgent need of Indian entrepreneurs and Brazilian entrepreneurs in Lambayeque to show the way, to show that this is, something that can be done. As I mentioned as well, with the Brazilian PICs, there is, an opportunity, and this is a commercial opportunity. I had discussions with some of your amazing fintechs, companies in India, of how this new ecosystem brings so many opportunities. I mean, it forces them to be incredibly innovative, but also, it gets them ready to sort of like compete in other markets. And so, that offers, a great opportunity. And I think these technologies, in order to be adopted more widely in the rest of the world, I think they need to also be promoted in countries like the UK, where I am, and in Europe, because that might help with their adoption in the rest of the world.
Carlos, thank you so much for joining us on NewsX. That was Carlos Montes, lead at the Innovation Hub at Cambridge University Business School. Thank you so much, Carlos, for speaking to NewsX and for giving this in-depth perspective to our viewers across the world.
For more such videos, subscribe to the NewsX YouTube channel, hit the bell icon.